All right, guys. Anthony here with Austin Torkel Weapons Guild, working again with Longsword, building off of last time, and going today with the Krumphau or the Crooked Cut. So last time we did the Zornhau, and we talked a lot about taking the center line, fighting for the center of the engagement, and being able to work to control this fighting position. So instead of throwing a cut that you extend out, follow through, drive through, and come this long way around with full extension, full reach, full power the entire time. The Zornhau fighting for that center, you want to get there first, get there fast, so you're keeping everything tucked in, extending your arms down, not forward. You see that really starts to change the interaction, the concept of where the fight comes through. So again, normal cut comes out, extends, pulls through here. With that Zornhau we did last time, we're kind of just pulling this down, pressing this out, and you can see I have a much shorter distance to travel, more compact in the arms. It's also going to change how I'm able to engage the fight and move from here. Crooked cut follows the same rules, right? We're no longer worrying about this long cut, this extension is pulling through, and instead we are crossing at the wrists. If you look at the KDF, they talk about starting the crooked cut from a Neiman hook position here, kind of throwing this cut across like that. In Meyer, you see it thrown a couple different ways, where there's the false edge, where there's the long edge. All those things come out of how it's being used. Earlier German traditions, the Ringeck, the Danzig, the 327A, they're using it as a long edge. The difference is going to be if you're using the short edge, it's more of a baiting, opening action, whereas long edge is more of a reactionary setup for the cut. We're going to talk about the long edge, building the training using from this long edge, and then if you want to, you can start using the short edge to start making these quicker transition motions. Just be aware that it's a possibility down the road if you desire. For right now, really working this idea of this crossed wrist cut from here. So again, like the Zornhau before, this breaks a bunch of the rules we had for what a good cut is defined as, right? So a good cut from longsword, we said we want our arms long, arms straight. We finish this cut, we want this lined up with our belly button. That's how we know rotating at the center of our body, we're getting our whole body moving through this cut, moving through this position. And that's kind of our easy, quick check metric of, was this a good cut? Am I lined up the right way? Am I doing the right things? As we cross our wrists, that's going to vastly affect where the cut comes from and how it's going to interact in the bind in this situation and kind of work from there. So before we even start working on the cut, quick demo of what that would look like. So we're here, cut from the wrist, finish like that. Cross wrist, long edges down, cutting through. So before we get into how to break that down, we're going to make this a really simple transitional build up to actually learn the actual cut mechanics. So if we start our position kind of an elbow, again, the dominant foot forward, hands relaxed on the sword, this is where we finish a cut from. We throw out, we cut, we pull down, we're an elbow or something close enough to it. From here, we're going to cross our wrists. I like to make sure my sword edge hasn't really changed alignment. I'm not crossing my wrists and like I'm going to throw a rising cut. Cross my wrists, I'm still just finished my descending cut. So I'm here, wrists are crossed. All we're going to do right now is get used to moving in this crossed wrist position. So just picking straight up, pulling straight back down. Just feeling this motion, getting used to this as a leverage point, as a body mechanics point. If you spend a lot of time working on this position, this is going to feel really dumb. So let it feel dumb. Let yourself move through these things, find these positions. One of the cues I'm using when I'm doing this is I'm loosely lining up the handle with my forearm, right? They're not perfectly in sync. I'm not shooting down my forearm, but it's close. It's just outside of it. I'm kind of resting my forearm on my wrist, and the handle is just sitting right outside of it. I'm not pushing this super wide here. I'm not making these big, gross motions. This is nice and compact, nice and tight, locked in. So again, from your low position, cross your wrists, and just getting used to this position. So from here, we get used to this idea that we can pull down with structure, with power, into this cross wrist position. Once you're used to finding that position, we start looking for that position in real time. right? So we're still not going to throw a cut and do all the things at once. We're going to throw up to that high position we had before. If you want to take that step first, great. Cross your wrists, pull it down. And again, we're just looking for this chain of events where our arms are extended, we're starting to step, crossing your wrists high, pulling it down. This is all going to start building up into a smooth, comprehensive action as we come through. Because this is still not how I want this cut to move. I'm not throwing this cut high, crossing my arms, pulling it down, because I don't want that angle of cut. So I want this cut to still come from my right to my left, just like this cut, right? We're coming here, my edge is aligned, I'm coming across like this. I am not crossing my wrists here and either cutting from my left to my right, or just crossing, kind of falling down and floundering. There still needs to be a cut. This still wants to have good edge alignment, good body mechanics, good motion as we move through. So building this up, we're going to extend, cross the wrists, and pull. We're starting to get that to feel like a fluid thing we can kind of do without thinking too much about it. The problem here, though, is I'm still cutting very vertically with this motion. So the next step starts to become, how do I throw this cut over here and pull this across as I step? And this is that kind of crooked cut positioning we're looking at. So now instead of throwing high and forward, thinking about throwing this hand forward, instead of bringing the right hand across, this cross position we had high, we're going to leave the right hand in place and work the, I hesitate to say grab the pommel, but we're going to push with our offhand as we come down. And then we're going to let that pull us across until we start getting this smooth right to left motion we had before. So this. And the difference here, the main difference we're really working on for this cut versus a normal cut is where the center of the rotation of the sword is. We're no longer rotating on our center, right? This is why it's a master strike. This is why it breaks the rules. We're not pulling through here using the center of our body as a rotation point to make the sword move across. Now, as you throw this out and really push with that offhand, now I'm over here, and as I rotate through, my sword's going to finish like it's over here somewhere. It's rotating roughly where my shoulder is, even a little bit outside my shoulder, depending on how I make that motion happen. But this lets us change the angles of the engagement, the same way that the Zornhau did. Zornhau cheated, Zornhau won by driving very hard, very violently down to the center and locking out in structure before the other person's sword can finish their cut. We're kind of taking a straight line, they're taking a long arc. This is faster, you get there first, you win, or stop their strike from hitting you, and then you can fight on from there. Crooked cut does the opposite, which is why, as a reaction against a cut, it's talked about you step off to your right side doing this. This is one of a handful of times they give us explicit footwork. It's like, yes, you need to be stepping to this right side to do that. And that is because you need to change where the center of the fight is. You need to control that. You need to get out of the way of their oncoming strike. I'm not saying this is a void. I'm not saying if someone's coming at your leg, slip it back or anything crazy like that, because that is too athletic for longsword. Which doesn't say you can't do that, but longsword is a weapon based on technique and skill and not based on speed and athleticism. So if you need to rely on being super fast to make something work right, it's probably not a great interpretation or great application of the technique that you're looking at. So this is about not avoiding this cut. Yes, it's nice to get out of the way. It's nice to give yourself some extra distance in space. We move to our left side because it lets us manipulate the bind. So we talked a little bit last time about how good cuts, you're lining up edge to edge, and it's kind of neutral for both parties. So we're here, I'm on the edge of the sword, they're on the edge of my sword, everyone's happy. If I can throw this crooked cut, I can start coming around their sword a little bit. If I can do that quickly, step off to my left side, now I'm, as you can see by my display spell, completely on the flat and able to knock out their sword out of that motion. And this comes from this right to left cut. This comes from the fact that my sword is no longer here, no longer just here, but now I've stepped offline as I've thrown it in that crossed armed angle. And you can see my shoulder is pointing way over there. I'm no longer looking for this center cut. I'm using this position as I step, as I move, to place over here. And what this is going to do, as I said, is you're going to come, instead of catching the edge of your opponent's weapon, you're going to catch over on the flat or over down on their hands and work your strength and structure bind advantage from there. So a lot to unpack, a lot to build up, but really just hitting some highlights and reviewing things so we can walk away with something to practice and build up with. So first thing, building up this crooked cut. Again, ultimate goal, we want it to look like this, where I'm here, I step and I cut, and I bring this across, and notice I have edge alignment. I'm cutting the entire time. This is a valid strike. This will cut through people's hands or fingers or whatever they put in front of it. Here, looking for this motion, bring this across, bring this out. Notice I'm doing this with a leap, at least a controlled leap for this demonstration, to my right side. I'm coming well over here. I'm stepping, I'm springing, I'm moving such that I come up and I'm resetting. Don't watch me doing this slowly and think, oh, he's taking 2 steps, 1, 2, because it's not. This is one motion that I recenter myself underneath. So one big step, this foot just comes along for the ride. So like I talked about last time, master cuts, I kind of look at it as being 1.5 tempos. They're not quite one. There's more things going on in there that one tempo doesn't quite cover. You're doing a lot of motions and tying things together, but I'm not going 1 step, 2 step. That's a completely different set of reactions to input stimulus that is going to lead you down a path of sadness. So again, leaping, gathering underneath as you move. So building up, starting with that from that elbow, crossing those wrists, getting used to this crossed wrist position and finding that naturally. Getting it over to the other side from here. Being able to find that crossed wrist in motion, just so you can find control and move through. And then once you have that comfortable, start taking this position instead of being centered, pushing it over outside the right side of your body. So you throw this cut, press this out, pull it down and across. And that is the crooked cut. So this one's a lot to unpack. I've decided I might touch more of this again next week. We'll kind of see how things go, see how things feel. If there are questions, please reach out. That's the only way I know what to give you guys for next time. Otherwise, I'll be back in like 5 minutes with Sword and Buckler.